Okay, welcome everybody. This is AP Computer Science A, AP Daily. My name is Rob Schultz and I teach AP Computer Science A at Bellbrook High School in Bellbrook, Ohio. We are now moving into our last video, video 3 for topic 1.4, compound assignment operators. And we're going to continue to build on the things we've done before, but today we're going to look at a specific skill set. One of the things that I tell my students is that, if you type a bunch of code and it runs, but you don't understand what it does, then that doesn't really help you in terms of being able to do future programs. So the idea is that as we write our code, we want to be able to describe what each line of code actually does. And that's going to be the main kind of focus of our video today. We're going to look at how we describe the behavior of an identified code segment. We want to look line by line and be able to describe what each line does. So as far as our kind of key learning objective, we're going to continue with the same objective that we've been dealing with in earlier videos in this topic. We want to evaluate what's being stored in a variable as a result of an expression with an assignment statement, but we want to focus on the specific skill of being able to interpret what a segment of code does by looking at it line by line by line by line by line. Okay, so I'm going to model one. I'm going to show you how to do one first, and then I'm going to give you a chance to work through one on your own. Okay, let's say we want to describe the behavior of this little segment of code. All right, and when I say describe the behavior, that's different than tracing code. We've done some examples where we traced code before. Now we want to describe it. And describe means that we have to use a little more verbiage. Okay, I'm not just creating a column where I keep track of the value of the variables. That's okay to be able to trace code, but we also need to be able to describe what it does. So if I were being asked to describe the behavior of this code, I would say, okay, the very first line, we're defining an int variable x and we're setting its initial value to 23, or you could say we're initializing it to 23. Okay. In the second line, we're taking the current value of x, we're multiplying it by 2 and assigning the result back to x. I'm very specifically outlining what's happening, what is happening in each line of code as I go. Okay, and again, this is something I'm doing on a separate piece of paper. I'm writing out line by line what each one does. And in my own class, by the way, if my students were doing this with something that they have in an IDE, maybe I would have them do this by adding comments at the end of each line to describe what the line does or something like that. This particular behavior or this particular skill doesn't necessarily have to be done on paper, but in our case, it's a good exercise to be able to do on paper, especially knowing that in the near future, our near future goal is to prep for the AP exam, which is a paper-based exam. So as we continue to work our way through this, the next line says we're going to take the current value of x, we're going to find x modulus 10, and remember that's the remainder of x divided by 10, and we're going to assign the result back to x, and then the final line of code, we're going to display the current value of x. So when I say describe the behavior, this is what I'm looking for. And you can describe the behavior verbally, you can describe the behavior in writing, you can describe the behavior in comments, but the idea is that we identify very, very specifically what each individual line does. Okay, and again, as specifically as we possibly can. Notice I'm not just saying up here that I'm setting x to 23. We're defining an integer variable x and we're setting its initial value to 23. We want to be as detail oriented as we can. Okay, so now it's your turn. I have a little bit bigger segment of code. I'm going to ask you to pause the video when you're ready. And what I want you to do is I want you to describe, and in this case, I would like you to do it in written form, just to get into the habit of being able to write a description of what it does. I would like you to describe in written form the behavior of each line of code. So go ahead and number them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all the way down, and then write specifically what each line does as we go. And then we'll come back and we'll step through it together. So pause when you're ready, and then as soon as you're finished, go ahead and press play and we'll continue. Okay, welcome back. Let's see how we did. So the very first line, we're defining an int variable x and setting its initial value to 23. Okay, in the second line, we define an int variable y and we set its initial value to 17. All right, the next line says we're going to take the current value of x using our multiply equal compound operator. We're going to take the current value of x, multiply it by 4, and assign the result back to x. The next line, we're using our increment operator. So we're going to take the current value of y, we're going to add 1 and assign the result back to y. The next line says we're going to use our division equals compound operator. So we're going to take the current value of x, we're going to divide by 3, remembering that we're doing an int divided by an int, which means our result is also going to be an int, and we're going to assign the result back to x. We're going to use minus equals, and we're going to take the current value of y, we're going to subtract 9, and we're going to assign the result back to y. And then finally, we're going to use our modulus equals. So we're going to take the current value of x, find x modulus y, which means we're looking for the remainder of the current value of x divided by the current value of y, and we're going to assign the result back to x. And then finally, the very last line, we're going to display the current value of x to the screen. Okay, everybody get all that okay? I hope so. All right, so I'm going to give you one last chance to pause the video because now we're going to go back to our trace the code exercise. Okay, so I want you to trace the code to determine the output. When you are ready, after you've had a chance to trace the code, again, on paper, to determine what the final output of this program is going to be, go ahead and press play and we'll continue and we'll kind of keep, we'll step through the last part of the trace before we wrap up our video. So go ahead and press pause when you're ready. Okay, welcome back again. So let's trace this thing through and see what happens. So in the very first line, we defined an int variable x and we set its initial value to 23. Okay, in the second line, we define an int variable y and we set its initial value to 17. We take the current value of x, we multiply it by 4 to get 92 and we assign the result back to x. We take the current value of y, we add 1 and we assign the result back to y. We take the current value of x, divide by 3, remembering that we're taking an int divided by an int. So even though 92 divided by 3 gives us 30.66666 repeating, the fact that we're doing an int divided by an int means that we get an int answer and there's no rounding involved. So everything from the decimal point on disappears and we end up with just 30 being assigned back to x. We take the current value of y and we subtract 9. So 18 minus 9 gives us 9, which gets assigned back to y. We take the current value of x, find x modulus y, which again is the remainder of x divided by y. So 9 goes into 30 3 times. 9 times 3 is 27, which means that 30 minus 27 gives us a remainder of 3, and our modulus gives us that remainder. So we end up with 30 modulus 9 equals 3, and the 3 gets assigned back to x. And then the final step is to simply display the current value of x, which is 3. So we have now traced, not only have we traced, but we've described the behavior of each line of code in detail, and we've traced the code to find what the output is. And there's a difference, again, between those two specific skill sets. Okay, so our main takeaways. On top of the skill of being able to describe behavior of code and trace code, we are now able to evaluate what's being stored in a variable as a result of an expression with an assignment statement. That was our main learning objective for this specific topic. Thank you again for watching. Please be sure that you are watching future videos. You can go back and review past videos if you feel like you need a little review on a specific topic. Please keep coming back again and again and again. We love seeing you with us. It's been a pleasure to do these videos with you. I hope everybody has a great day, and I'll see you the next time.